Hello, beautiful friends. It's Erika. I wanted to come on today and do a special short little Q&A video to answer some of the questions that I get here on the channel. And rather than respond to them individually in the comments, I thought I would just come on and do a quick little video addressing some of the main questions, a little bit just more about how general readings work, how I personally work, my own philosophy about how I do these readings and the tools that I choose to use. And this will be just something that, for those of you that are curious and interested in understanding a little bit about how this can work and how I personally do this work. So we're going to be covering a little bit about how a general reading works. I'm going to take a look also at why I don't read reversals. It's another question I get a lot. And maybe touch a little bit on timelines and time frames as well. So first off, understanding how, first I'll just get a little bit how I work. What I do is my role is as a channel to basically communicate whatever messages come through when I connect to my guides and to source energy. And I get into a process where I kind of step aside consciously. My conscious mind moves to the side and I open up to receiving the information. And my role is simply to communicate whatever comes through. This is not where I am necessarily I don't filter what comes through. I don't change what comes through. I literally say whatever is coming through in the messages. And oftentimes there's even some random references I'll come up with that I'll just say, I don't know why this is coming in, but I have to say this. Sometimes that means it can literally just be for one person. But so my role is not to interpret or filter what comes through. It is my job to interpret the energies and to be able to communicate what those represent and get the message to you in a way that will either resonate or it won't. And I guarantee you, if you're brand new to this, you heard that a lot about this resonating and not. So the way that resonance works in a general reading is that is essentially your soul's connecting energetically to the message as being part of your vibrational reality. Guarantee you, many of you guys, you may have come here and been like, how is it that she can be doing a general reading that is reaching thousands of people and then she feels like she's reading my life exactly? Well, it's because Spirit knows through my work and my YouTube channel, along with the other work that I do in my subscription and when I was doing one-on-one with my clients, is that Spirit knows who's going to be hearing the message, when they're going to be hearing it, and when it resonates, that's Spirit's way of bringing you the message when it is meant for you to hear. Okay? Now, there are many videos I've done in the past, 2 years ago. This is why I was saying my readings are timeless. Except for the ones now, I say that, but some of them are specific for date specific, just to get in the ballpark of a specific, like, the month or the 2 weeks or whatever it is, or the weekly energy readings. I used to never do those. I used to only do timeless readings. So, but even that, if I do a reading for September of 2019 and you happen to watch it in February of 2021 and it resonates, it doesn't negate the message just because of when I recorded it, if that makes sense. So, Spirit is using me as a messenger of things that are important for many people to hear. So a lot of times in a general reading, the collective consciousness is what comes through. And I'm saying this and I'm actually changing what I'm saying as I'm saying this. When I first started my work, I was channeling for what I called the leading edge of collective consciousness. These were the initial souls that were awakening at a much deeper level, understanding more of their spiritual path. A lot of them were light workers doing their work. And I was helping, basically, if you think of the bell curve of the collective consciousness, I was really channeling primarily for the leading edge, right? Those initial pioneers that were one of the, more towards that front, that were helping pave the way for the rest of humanity. But just in the last little while here, in the last month or so, it's almost like there's a whole new, I'm almost channeling for two different segments right now. That's why I was hesitating, because I was like, well, I used to do it that way, but now I'm not. Just so anyway, I hope I didn't confuse you there. But the point being is that there are the initial pioneers, then there's the bell curve, and then there are the stragglers that are going to just be a little bit behind on their journey. So when messages come through, understanding that Spirit knows that they want the most people, or the right people, I should say, not even necessarily the most, but the right people to hear the message when it resonates for them. And that's why in a general reading, like, there can be multiple messages that come through. Some will resonate, some will not. Sometimes it's like everything resonates, and that's absolutely possible. But there are oftentimes I could be reading for somebody in a general reading, or doing a general reading, and suddenly it's like I'm tuned in, or it feels like I'm talking to you, and then suddenly, boom, I say something else, and you're like, well, that's not me. Well, that's because that's not meant for you, because it is a general reading. That doesn't happen when I was doing my one-on-ones. One-on-ones worked very differently. I don't do them anymore, but in the, I think it's like over 1,000. I have to get the actual number. I can't even bother to count them, but let's just say a heck of a lot of one-on-one videos and readings I've done for people over the years. That didn't happen with one-on-one readings, but it does happen with general. And just understand that if there's a message that doesn't resonate, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because the messages that do resonate, they still resonate, which is what you need to always listen to. That's where, videos and readings, general readings, the resonance is what is your litmus test for whether that's a message for you. All right. If something doesn't fit, or if it doesn't sound accurate, just be like, cancel, not for me. And if it's not resonating, then just click away. There's no reason to stay watching something that's not resonating for you. All right. Not that you would, but maybe some people do. I don't know. So the general reading is ultimately meant to communicate where we are as a collective consciousness. And you'll hear me say this a lot, but we are all, as a collective of humanity, moving through similar themes at the same time. There are astrological events, there are cosmic events, there are themes that permeate all of humanity at different times. And we are all swimming in these pools of energies. We swim in the same cosmic pool of energy. Therefore, to think that like we might be on completely different themes in our lives as a collective just means you don't understand how that works. So whether you're aware of it or not, many people are dealing with the same themes now in their lives. They were dealing with similar themes 5 years ago that are different from what they're dealing with now, but as a collective, it was a very common thing. So if you actually look at my 2020 series, I have a video for, there's just a number of videos in that series. It's a playlist here on my channel. But one of the videos is where I talk about setting the stage, and I talk about the entire decade leading up to 2020 and what was going on in the collective consciousness. And you can actually see more about what I'm talking about. It's really fascinating to see where we are as a collective, which is why 2020 is so big, so big, so big, so big. But that's, rather than try to explain it more here, just if you want to watch that video, you'll understand a little bit more about this idea. So that's why general readings can make sense, because we are all dealing with, granted we deal with them in separate different ways, like how we choose to respond to these energies, our choice points, our decisions, the growth that we do, whether we avoid things, whether we hit them face on, that's all different. But the energies and the opportunities that we have presented for our soul growth do have themes that are permeating everybody. So that's why general readings will often resonate from that perspective. It's not the law of averages. But before I even did this work forever ago, I'd be like, oh, that's just lucky. No, it's not. That was before I understood what I knew now. But I can understand if somebody's like, not understanding that concept. So I hope that that helps. Now, one of the other things I also want to touch on is why I don't do time frames. First of all, being a general reading, in my opinion, this is just how I work. Everything I'm saying here is just my opinion, my philosophy. Other people, other teachers, other readers, other channels have their own philosophy. And this is purely just saying that this is mine and other people have theirs and that's theirs. So in no way am I making other people wrong if they have a different philosophy. This is purely just explaining my role and my work. The reason I don't do time frames and timelines in my general readings is because A, they're general. Number one, I didn't even do them with my private readings. When I had one-on-one sessions, I still didn't do timelines and time frames. Even when it was individual, never mind in a general reading. So you can understand why if I don't even do them in an individual reading, that it would be even worse if I tried to do them in a general reading. And there would be times, and the reason I didn't do them is multiple factors, but really quickly, time is not linear. It is multidimensional. I am reading the energies, and the energies always precede the actual physical manifestation. So things can be manifest energetically in the higher dimensions long before they manifest physically. So when I'm saying that if let's say I feel it's imminent or it's right there, it still could be a ways down the road in the manifestation in the physical, but it doesn't mean it's not manifest right now in the higher dimensions. And so there can be a lag in that time. We also have free will. When I'm reading if I'm looking into when I was doing private readings, I'll just use that as my example. When I was tuning into a specific individual and their questions about what's happening, what's going on, what's coming in, I would be reading that moment in time, right? I would be taking a look at what are the potentials? What do I sense from the past? Where are we now? And what's likely to come in given the energies that are present and right here close by to us? But I would never predict out 5 years, 10 years, because there's so much that can happen in between that could change trajectories and manifestations. It's like we have these opportunities and what we choose to do with them along the way. There's choice points. There's free will. We have the opportunity for growth and we can either take it and make a strong decision or we can run away from it and ignore it. And then the universe is going to recalibrate, bring us that lesson in a much bigger way in a different path until we learn it. So I can't predict human behavior. I can't predict timing of things. And I can tell you there's things that have completely manifested and are ready to happen, but they're orchestrating so many things along the way that may prevent it from happening at a specific time. And it's just meant for a different time. So time is very difficult to predict. But the main reason I don't like doing time frames in my videos, even with my one-on-one sessions, this is the spiel I used to give all of my clients at the beginning of all their private readings, by the way, just so that they would understand, is that if I said to you, you know what, because a lot of times people are asking about love. And if I had said to somebody, you know what, it's going to be, I hate to say this, but it's going to be about 3 years until this person kind of goes through their growth. You go through your growth, and then there's going to be an opportunity for you to come back together in a very meaningful way in a different situation. If I said it was 3 years out, most people, because it's human nature to take the easy route, would be like, okay, wish it was tomorrow, but it's 3 years away. So, okay, that's good. So I guess I'm just going to go about my life, day-to-day life, and just wait for the calendar to turn, the clock to go until it's 3 years. And I'll be like, poof, okay, great. Now here it is. That's what Erika said, which is why I don't say this. It robs you of the opportunity to develop your soul growth, trusting spirit, trusting in that you cannot see tangible evidence of. If I said it was 3 years out, most people would kind of it just makes you lazy, I believe, spiritually, to know a time frame. It can make you lazy. It doesn't always, because there certainly are people who are here to grow and all of that and would grow along the way. But overwhelmingly, it puts the whole part of this journey is trust and faith, and trust in what you know in your heart is true for you, even though you can't see the evidence of it yet. Trusting in the guidance you're receiving, trusting in that the stepping stones that the divine gives you along your path to bring you to your highest and best. So saying something is going to be 3 years out or even 3 months out, it's a little bit like, it's just something that I do not do for a multitude of reasons. So again, I know other readers do that, and I am not here to comment on their process and their philosophy whatsoever. I have no idea what it is, and I would never try to assume I knew what it was. So just sharing why I personally have never done time frames and timelines. I will get a sense of whether something's pretty close or it still might be a ways out. I don't always get that sense, but I would never, I have never put a number or a time on it for those reasons I just stated. So lastly, let's talk about why I don't read reversals. I get this question a lot, and not that I need to justify in any means why I do my work that I do, because that's not the purpose of this video. I'm sharing this simply as an opportunity to educate those of you who are genuinely curious, interested in understanding possibly how you might be developing your own style. So you might hear what I'm saying in these answers and be like, well, I'd rather not do it a different way. Great. I'm just sharing why I personally don't read reversals. And whether to read reversals or not is a personal choice when it comes to using a divination tool such as tarot or oracle decks. And each person, I myself, develop a very specific relationship with each deck. I get to know the deck gets to know me. I get to understand how that deck speaks to me. I get to understand how the channeled messages that I'm receiving work through the imagery of that particular deck. And I have a deal with my guides that I don't read reversals. And so they don't need to show me a card, for example, in reverse for me to interpret the meaning as reversed. So for example, this is just the card that came out, the Emperor. They don't have to have it come out like this for me to be able to read what some people would consider the reversed interpretation of the Emperor card. Now, the other aspect of this is every single tarot card in and of itself has so many interpretations. You take one card like this by itself, you can read 10 different books on how to interpret this card 100 different ways, different meanings, different interpretations, different ones for love, different ones for general, different ones for challenges, different ones for opportunities. I mean, there's so many multiple meanings, right? I can read see the same card 300 times and come up with and interpret it 300 different ways because I am listening to my guidance on the energies I'm feeling from that card. It has to do with the interrelationship of that card, where it is with the other energies coming through. There are times I will have seen a card literally thousands of times and I will say, I've never interpreted it this way, but this is the message I'm getting from this card today. And I do. And so my guides know that I don't read reversals, although I should say I overall don't read reversals. Once in a while I will. You'll see on my videos where there's times where I'll be like, oh, Spirit's having me keep it in reverse this time. And that does happen, but it's up to my guides. Like if I'm going to flip a card over and Spirit's like, no, we want you to keep it reversed, then I keep it reversed. It's an art. It's not a science. Now I will say that if you're new to tarot and you're learning it, by all means, by the book, interpreting the cards as you're getting used to them can be a very helpful tool. When I first started, I would literally have my cards on the table and I would have 5 or 6 different tarot books where when I would get a card and I'd pull a reading, I would immediately go to all the different versions and explanations for that meaning of that card because there's so many. And you guys know, you guys watch readings and videos and you see people will interpret the same card many different ways because it's a divination tool. I do not need the cards to be able to accurately channel guidance and information. If I wanted to right now, I could literally sit here, put my laptop here, get into channel, write down a couple questions, and I'd close my eyes and my fingers would start flying across the keyboard And then at the end, I'd have it and I could just read it to you. I don't need to pull the cards to channel the guidance. I do it because, first of all, I love using cards. I think they're absolutely beautiful. I love the different interpretations of the tarot. I love using them. They're a beautiful visual representation of the energies that come through. And it's much more interesting for you as a viewer to be able to look at pretty cards instead of just me talking. But when I do channel for myself and for others, I just channel right. So I don't need to have the cards to tell me the interpretation. Now, I also will say that if you understand cards and you do read reversals, and when I'm doing a video that a card comes out in the reverse and you're getting a different message through my video, by all means, take the message that you're getting for you through my video. Like, there could be people watching my videos and then have a completely different interpretation for their life based on the cards if they know cards. But they're like leveraging my video to be able to get those messages. So that's perfect. It's absolutely beautiful. So if you understand reversals and you use them, by all means, take the message as you're getting it through my videos. And lastly, I do want to touch on, because I've seen these comments where people like to, first of all, people, there's always those people, right? But the people that are very critical, they like to criticize. They're not out there doing this themselves. They have their own whatever opinions, and that's fine. But to say that my work is, and other people's work that don't agree with their philosophy is inaccurate because they're not reading reversals, well, you don't understand divination tools. It's not a science, it's an art. And if you understand what reversals mean, there are many different interpretations for reversals, guys. This is the thing. It's like reverse doesn't mean, unless it doesn't mean always that it's the block or it's the reverse meaning of the card. Sometimes Spirit reverses the card simply to emphasize the message of that card. It's not to say it's not going to happen. But I will also say, if you have learned to read the tarot in the way where the reversals mean a block or the reversals mean an emphasis, that's fine. But there's so many different ways to read them. And at the end of the day, it is a very personal relationship and a personal interpretation. It's a tool, it's not a science, and everyone uses the tool differently, right? And they're giving me this example, so I have to give it. Because I was a competitive tennis player, and there's the tennis racket. That's arguably the tool, right? The tool to hit that tennis ball is a tennis racket. Granted, there's different shapes of tennis rackets, there's different weights, different brands, different strings, whatever, but it's still a tool. But guess what? Every tennis player had their own individual stroke. They would hit their forehand, their form would be completely different. Using the same tool, it had the same result, the ball got over the net, but they had a completely different form. I mean, you'd see people with different grips. Some people had an open stance, some people had a closed stance, and they still were all using the same tool, right? And they still got the job done. So again, my intention here was to open those of you that are genuinely curious about that question up to thinking about it for yourself. And I know many of you guys are developing your own skills and your own gifts and using tarot in your own lives for your own purposes. And I hope that by doing that, that helped you maybe form a little bit more about your opinion, about your philosophy. You might come up that yours is going to be different than mine, and it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. So guys, if you like this type of Q&A, this is the thing that I do in my Soul Growth Accelerator, where I actually address questions that people ask and give my opinion, my philosophies, and my answers to their questions. And so if this is something that you've enjoyed, this video, understanding a little bit more of the more in-depth philosophy, things like that, then definitely check out the Soul Growth Accelerator, because that's the type of thing I do there. It's not something I'm going to be doing a lot of here simply because it's not the right venue. But I did want to take the time today because I do, I wanted to address some of the main questions I get as an opportunity to help you. If you want to check out the accelerator, there is the holiday special that expires on midnight Pacific time on the 1st of January. So if you want to check it out, the link is down below for that information, and the special does expire, but that's 40% off at this time. So hopefully you guys can go check that out if this is the type of video that you would like to see more of. So with that, guys, I hope this has been helpful, and I wish you an incredible new year, incredible 2020, and until next time, I send you much love. Bye.